Welcome to the Growing Minds garden. It is winter now, but there are still some things growing, and I wanted to show you what the farm and the garden look like here in the winter. So I'm standing in front of our hazelnut tree, and there are some of their, what would be seeds and flowers, I guess. These are called catkins. So if you see things like that from a tree, it's called a catkin, and that's how they spread their seeds. So here is where our sunchokes are. We cut them all down so they're not so tall anymore. And then we can dig them up, and under the ground here should be the sunchokes, the root part that we eat. So I'll show you that a bit later when we're digging them up. So here is a sunchoke that's kind of sitting on the surface. Most of them are underground. This one you can see has been nibbled on by some creatures, but this is what they look like. So they're crunchy and starchy like a potato, but a little bit sweeter, and you can roast them or saute them. So as you can see, a lot of the leaves have fallen off the trees, like the mulberry and the quince. There's our strawberries. There's no berries on them anymore. So things are kind of looking dead, but they're actually not really dead. So if you come over here to our mulberry tree, it has no leaves on it, but the tree is still alive. In the spring, the leaves will come back and it'll grow fruit again. We're going to prune it back a whole bunch because that's really good for fruit trees to prune them. Here is our asparagus bed, and we pulled up all the asparagus stalks and the crowns underneath the soil where the shoots come from. Those are still alive and just kind of hibernating in the winter, and then we'll get more shoots in the spring. And something that does look a bit more alive that you can see is our rhubarb. It's definitely not as big as it was, but it's still there, still growing, still going strong. You could still eat the stems there. And we also have our little patch over here where we had mustard greens and kale, and the chard is growing really well. So we still have chard we can eat. So lots of brassicas like chard, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Those things still grow in the winter. So you can see our curly kale here still growing. So that's what our farm is looking like in the winter. Kind of brown, kind of not very leafy, but there are still some things growing and leafy, and the things that are brown and losing their leaves aren't actually dead. They're just saving their energy until we get more sun and warm weather again in the spring. These are our turkey tail growing on a birch stump. They seem to have grown much more prolific over the past few months. So you can see they're completely covering all sides of this stump. A very unique part of turkey tail is that it has white underneath. And so these fungi are breaking down the dead stump and decomposing it. That's why fungi are decomposers. They break down dead material so that other organisms can use the nutrients.
Hey everybody! Alright, so you might think of winter as the sleepiest time for our farm, which is true to a degree. But now that the solstice, the winter solstice, has passed, and the days are very slowly getting longer, things are starting to pop up. And so we're going to show you kind of what's going on out here. Alright, so formerly our nightshade field where all the potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers were growing. Those are all gone now, and we have planted garlic. Every single row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows of different kinds of garlic. Some of it we'll harvest green, like the garlics, the elephant garlic. We like it best when it's a long green stem, like a leek is. And some of it we will harvest in the late spring, early summer, and some of it we'll harvest later in the summer as a dry garlic for saving next year, because we're still now eating the garlic we grew and saved last year. So that's that field. This next field, which was brassicas, like cabbage and kohlrabi and kale and collard greens, those are very winter hardy plants, so many of them are still growing. And in fact, our cabbages that we harvested from are still making good leaves to eat. Every part of a cabbage plant is edible. And so even though the main head is gone, we can still eat the leaves. And they are especially sweet and delicious because of the frost that we've gotten on occasion now. We'll start to change these rows over gradually, and maybe even plant some fava beans in with them. And we've left in a lot of this stuff because the former broccoli is still flowering. And anything that makes a flower right now is pretty special for our wildlife, like hummingbirds. Probably not the bees because they're sleeping, but the hummingbirds might need any bit of nectar they can find, so we've left that in for them. And then down beyond that, those big ugly sheets of black plastic that you see, and there's other sheets of plastic around the farm, that is what we're calling sheet mulching. So a mulch is something that covers the ground, and it's a sheet of plastic that is covering the ground. And the benefit of that is that no weeds can grow under that black plastic. So as it sits there, that soil is fallow, it's waiting, and the weeds that we're growing are decomposing underneath that black plastic, which will then make better soil for the next time we want to use those beds. Follow me this way and I'll show you what's going on in the north end. So what was formerly, let's see, well, this is where the brassica, like cabbage family plants, are moving to. So this will be where they are this next year, if I'm not mistaken. And so we've got some cabbage that is overwintered here, and then really interesting here. I should point this one out to you. This is one of the neatest looking vegetables, and it is called Romanesco. And you'll notice that it is fractal-like. So every little piece of it is like a smaller piece or a bigger piece of the thing around it. It's related to broccoli and to cauliflower, so you probably see some similarities there, but special in the way that it looks because of its fractal-like nature. And then finally over here, what was our corn, bean, and squash field has now all been cleared away. All the pumpkins are gone, all the corn is gone, all the cucumbers are gone, and now we're going to plant some fava beans in here as a cover crop to help fix some nitrogen in the soil before we start using this for a different crop next in the spring. These beds, unlike our sheet mulch, they are also mulched, which means something that covers the ground, but they are mulched with straw, which is an organic mulch, something that will break down and decompose. And as it decomposes, it adds organic matter to the soil. So in a different way, it's improving our soil by also preventing weeds from growing, also keeping moisture in the soil during the hot growing season, because this was underneath all of our pumpkin and squash plants. And so it's just a different use of mulch that will do essentially some of the same things.
Thanks for joining us on the tour of our garden and our farm.
See you soon!